Welcome everyone to an all-in-one guide for every single monster in Repo. I thought with there being 10 new monsters added to the game, bringing the total up to 29 monsters, why not do an all-in-one guide and have all the information in one video? If this video does help you out at all, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, let's jump into it. Starting out with the gnomes. They spawn in groups of 4, they have 20 health, they require 0 strength to grab, and they do 10 damage per hit. Gnomes are usually quite an annoying tier 1, as they love to target your valuables, destroying anything they can get their hands on. However, there are quite a few ways to easily deal with the gnomes. It's important to remember that they will target your valuables first, so if you are holding one or have your cart nearby, they will always go for that first. However, you can simply pick up the gnomes, and by throwing them at a wall or just throwing them up in the air and they hit the floor, that is enough to kill a gnome. Now, a few tips for the gnomes is if you're holding a valuable and you do actually have a pit nearby, you can hold the valuable over the pit and all of the gnomes will target that valuable and jump into the pit. Also, if you have a lot of gnomes targeting you at the same time, you can simply just jump and move around and they shouldn't be able to hit you, allowing you to grab them and throw them around and kill them. But that's pretty much all that needs to be said about gnomes. So on to the next one. Next up, we have the duck, or the apex predator. It has 150 health, it cannot be grabbed, and deals 10 damage per hit. Now, the duck enjoys being really annoying, as if it spots you, it will continuously follow you around the map, jumping in front of you, doing anything it can to make you grab it or get itself hit by an item you're holding. Now, if you do grab or hit the duck, it will go into an enraged state and stay like this for around 10 seconds, where it will try and attack you and it will know exactly where you are the entire time. Now, the best way I've found to try and get away from it is to just simply jump tumble away. It can catch up to you, but if you have enough stamina and you keep jump tumbling, you can actually pretty much outrun it. But by far the best way to deal with the duck is to get it out of there early by finding a toilet or cauldron, obviously depending on the map you're on, because they don't all have them, and making it jump in the toilet or the cauldron, which will then stun the duck, meaning it won't attack, and that gives you enough time to grab the duck and slam it on the floor. This is pretty much the only time you can grab the duck as well, is when it's stunned. But yeah, that's about it for the duck. Moving on to the SPEWER. It has 65 health, it does 10 damage per hit, and also requires 4 strength to grab. The SPEWER is basically a floating mouth, and when it sees a player, it will start freaking out and vomiting everywhere. It will sometimes get close enough to you to latch onto your face, causing the player to occasionally vomit, which will deal damage to not only monsters but also valuables. So be sure to look away from anything you do not want to vomit on. Also, once the SPEWER has been on your face for a little bit of time, it will remove itself, causing you to be stunned for a few seconds. Also, just to note, it won't leave your face if you are crouched underneath something. It's easy enough to deal with, however, as 4 strength is enough to slam it into walls, and you can also use small objects from levels 1 to 4 to bat it out of the sky and stun it. Overall, this monster is reasonably easy to kill, and honestly not that much of a threat, and if you don't want to fight it, it's pretty easy to avoid. And that's pretty much it for the SPEWER. Next up, we have the Shadow Child. It has 150 health, it does 30 damage, and it requires 9 strength to move it. How the Shadow Child works is if you look at it for too long, it will have some white arms start growing out from the side of it for around 5 seconds, and if you keep staring at it, this will cause it to yoink you, dealing 30 damage. Some ways to avoid this, however, is to simply look away, or you can use the side of your screen to assess where the Shadow Child is. Now, you can actually stun the Shadow Child using a small object, causing it to teleport away. However, the amount of health it has makes it almost impossible to kill. You can also tumble into the Shadow Child. This will sacrifice 5 of your health, but it will also cause the Shadow Child to teleport away. Now, the best way to actually kill the Shadow Child is the weapon from the shop, because of how often it teleports away after you hit it. But yeah, it's usually not even worth killing. You're better off just avoiding it. Next up, we have the PEEPER. It has 30 health, it does 2 damage per hit, and it cannot be grabbed. The PEEPER works by sitting on the ceiling and forcing you to look at it when you're in line of sight. After a few seconds of looking at it, it will begin to deal 2 damage per tick. Now, this enemy is pretty easily avoidable by breaking line of sight any way you can. Now, the way I would recommend to do this is simply pulling up your map, as you can actually see where you're going even with the PEEPER holding your gaze. You can easily find your way out of a room and break line of sight. Now, another way to counter it is by having a tier 3 medkit in one of your slots, as if you hold up the tier 3 medkit onto the pupil of the eye, it will actually also block line of sight. But in my opinion, the math method is way easier. Also, if you are looking to kill the eye, most weapons from the shop will be your best bet, as the eye can no longer make you drop weapons when it sees you. And that's literally all there is to be said about the eye. On to the next one. Next up, we have Bella, the first of the monsters from the new update. Now, Bella has 200 health, he does 5 damage per hit, and also requires 9 strength to grab. Bella is actually quite a fast tier 1 enemy that it can actually be extremely dangerous to deal with. She will pretty much roam around the map, actively trying to force you to get in her way. And if you are stood in the way of Bella, she will ring her bell at you a total of 3 times, and by the 3rd ring, if you still haven't moved out of the way, she will go into rage mode, become invisible, flying extremely fast at you, and if you don't get into any cover, she will most likely just full kill you, because she really likes to get you stuck in corners. Now, the best way to deal with Bella is to simply move out of her way on the 1st ring, as she will just go past going about her day. It is worth noting, if you do want to kill Bella, she can be stunned by small medium items from levels 1 to 4, but it's not really worth the return on the orb, so you're better off just shooting her with a gun if you have one. Otherwise, just avoid her. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Bella. Next up, we have the Tick. It has 10 health, it does 10 damage per hit, and it also cannot be grabbed. The Tick is one of the really unique monsters in the game in the way it attacks, as it will latch onto the beam that comes out from your hand, whether you're holding onto the cart or onto a valuable. If it sees this beam, it can then attach itself to you, dealing 10 damage per hit, and it will also have life steal, so it will gain that health for itself. Now, the Tick can take up to a total of 100 health from you before releasing its grasp on its own, meaning you will need at least 1 health upgrade to survive. Now, once the Tick does fully suck you, it will be big and green and also won't attack again, so that you can easily kill it and get some of your health back. Now, the best ways to deal with the Tick are, if it does latch onto you, you can simply bash it on the floor or wall, and that will kill the Tick, even though you will take quite a bit of damage doing so. Or another way, and in my opinion the best way, is to just simply jump tumble the Tick, as you will sacrifice 5 health, but 1 tumble is enough to kill the Tick. But honestly, it's worth it. It's also worth mentioning that the Tick will only drop an orb if it has fully sucked you off. It will not drop an orb if you kill it early. And yeah, that's about it for the Tick. Next, we have the Birthday Boy. He has 150 health, does 10 damage per hit, and requires 4 strength to grab. The Birthday Boy overall is quite an easy monster to deal with in general, as his main mechanic is to go around the map and inflate balloons. Now, the way this works is if you do end up popping a balloon with your player by jumping into them, he will come running after you, swinging at you, dealing 10 damage per hit. However, you do pop a balloon by throwing an item, he doesn't always seem to aggro, but if you are close enough to the balloon, he will aggro anyway. Now, if you want to easily kill the Birthday Boy, you're best off avoiding all balloons, because if you don't pop a balloon, he's actually completely passive and won't fight back, meaning you can get any valuables, any weapon, and hit him over the head. So the poor guy is literally just free money. And honestly, that's literally it for the Birthday Boy. Next up, we have Elsa. She has 600 health, which is actually the most out of every monster in the game. She does 5 damage per hit and cannot be grabbed. Elsa is quite similar to the duck in the way which she will follow you around, barking and wanting attention. However, to deal with Elsa, all you have to do is simply click on her and little love hearts will come out of her, keeping her happy. And after enough pets, she will roam away from you. Now, if you in fact do not pet Elsa, she will keep barking and start barking even more, getting more increasingly angry, and you'll notice her eyes actually start to turn red, and she will turn into a giant buff roided up dog and start chasing you around for around 15 seconds. And if she does get you, she will deal 5 damage per hit, and when she is big and runs into you, you will also take environmental damage, and she loves to get you stuck as well. It's also worth mentioning she will go into the state if you do hit her with any item. Now, as Elsa is the highest health monster in the game, killing her really isn't that much of an option, so the best way to deal with Elsa is to simply pat her, and as she's only a tier 1 and drops a small orb, killing her really isn't worth it. Moving on to the alien. It has 150 health, it does 50 damage per hit, and requires 4 strength to grab. Now, how the alien works is it will follow you around, and if it gets close enough to you, it will use its attack to slowly pick you up and then slam you into the ground, dealing 50 damage. It's also worth noting it's able to pick up valuables and slam them as well, so make sure it's not attacking near your cart. Now, when the alien is attacking, it will have a short period at the end of its attack where it will turn red just before it slams you. And during this time, if you are playing with friends, you can actually go into the red area and save your friends if they are trapped. Now, the best way to counter the alien is when you are grabbed by him, you can actually just shoot him, because you can actually pull items out while you are tumbled now. But if you have a gun or a sword, you can just kill the alien while he's got you. Apart from that, if you don't use a shop weapon, the only way is to stun him using medium objects from levels 1 to 4. But as soon as the moon phase hits, you won't be able to do that anymore. So the best way is definitely just using a weapon from the shop. And if you don't want to fight him, he's also very easy to avoid. Just hide under something and he most likely won't see you. And that's about all there is to the alien. Moving on to the bangers, they have 50 health, require 0 strength to grab, and they deal around 30 damage. Bangers are similar to gnomes in which they'll spawn in groups of 4. However, of course, their mechanics are way different, as if they see you, they will light a fuse and run straight towards you. In that time where they light the fuse, you will have either a bit of time to run away and get away from your friends, or kill the bangers before they blow up. And you'll know when they're about to blow up because they'll make a loud hissing noise, kind of scream, and yeah, that's when they'll explode. Now, there's actually 2 good ways to deal with bangers. One is that you can pick them up, slam them twice on the ground, and then chuck them away, causing them to explode. Or you can simply grab them and chuck them into a pit. Another thing to note about the bangers is if you do throw it at a monster, it will deal 10 damage and stun them for 5 seconds. Also, if a banger does hit you, it will stun you for 3 seconds as well. But yeah, that's literally it for the bangers. Next up, we have the frog, or the chef. It has 150 health, it does 10 damage per hit, and requires 9 strength to grab. The chef overall is a pretty basic monster, as when it sees you, it will lock onto you and chase you. Now, the way the frog's attack actually works is he will pull out his cleavers, charge them up, and then throw himself at you. Now, this is actually pretty easy to avoid. All you have to do is move out of the way at the last second, and this will cause the frog to go straight past you. And that is his one and only attack. Now, if the frog does actually hit you, not only will he knock you over, he will more than likely get more than 1 hit off, especially if he gets you in a corner. So just be careful of that. But honestly, there's not too much more to be said about the frog. It's quite simple overall. Apart from you can actually kill him using a small object from levels 1 to 4 as it will stun him. But yeah, that's it for the frog. On to the next one. Next up, we have the animal. It has 150 health, does 2 damage per hit, and requires 4 strength to grab. The animal, in my opinion, is one of the more annoying tier 2s to deal with, as when it sees you, it will start freaking out, sprinting around all over the place. It will try and knock you down, and if there's any valuables nearby, best believe it will most likely try and break them. Now, a few other things to know about the animal is if your cart is nearby, it can damage the items in your cart, so you want to avoid your cart being near it. And it can also ping items out of the cart, which is super annoying. And if it does hit you, it will stun you for a few seconds, which is also super annoying. Now, the best way to deal with the animal is to simply jump onto a table or anything higher up than the floor, because the animal will not be able to hit you. Now, it is worth mentioning from levels 1 to 4, you can actually hit the animal with a small object, which will stun it. However, a lot of the time, it will make you drop the item, so it's not really worth it. This does mean using a weapon from the shop is a much better option. But that's all there is to be said about the animal. On to the next one. Next up, we have the R.E.P.O. It has 50 health, does 10 damage per hit, and requires 4 strength to grab. The R.E.P.O. is one of the scariest tier 2 enemies in R.E.P.O, as not only can they combo you for 2 hits, but they are also able to chuck you straight into pits, making them really dangerous. The way the R.E.P.O. attacks is if it sees you, it will walk towards you, grab you, throw you up into the air in tumble mode, and then leave you stunned for a few seconds. And if it still sees you after the first attack, it will go for a second hit, but after that, it should roam away. Now, the best way to counter the R.E.P.O. is from levels 1 to 4, you can actually use a small object and easily hit and stun the R.E.P.O, as they do only have 50 health. Using tumble on the upstreams is also a good option, as not only will it take full damage when you tumble it, you'll also get the damage from the tumble, which will almost one-shot it, so you can easily finish it off with an item after if you need to. However, with the R.E.P.O, it's almost best to play it safe and kill them as quickly as possible, as I've seen so many people's runs get ended by these guys. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the R.E.P.O. Moving on to the hidden. It has 100 health, it doesn't do any damage, and it requires 4 strength to grab. The hidden is the invisible ghost enemy in R.E.P.O, and you'll only be able to know where it is by seeing its footsteps on the floor when it moves. Now, the hidden itself as a monster isn't actually that dangerous at all, as it doesn't deal any damage. However, where it is actually quite scary is when it's comboed with other monsters, as if the hidden sees you, it will sprint towards you, grab you, and you'll basically be stuck in its arms until you reach the other side of the map. And this gives all of the other monsters on the map pretty much a free hit on you if they're quick enough, which can be literally anything and sometimes even enough to kill you. Now, the hidden also used to be able to drop you straight into pits, but it doesn't seem to do that anywhere near as much now. The best way to counter the hidden is from levels 1 to 4. You can actually just use a small object to hit and stun the hidden. Otherwise, it's best just to get it out of there and use a shop weapon. It's not worth taking the risk. And yeah, that's literally it for the hidden. Moving on to the RUGRAT. It has 150 health, its damage varies, and it requires 4 strength to grab it. The RUGRAT is a seriously annoying monster that will run around and find valuables that it will then pick up and throw at you. And the damage depends on how big the object is. Now, the RUGRAT can pick up anything from a small object all the way up to a cube. And yes, this does include soul orbs as well. Now, there are actually a few ways to deal with the Rugrat, such as hitting it with a small item from levels 1 to 4 will completely stun it. Now, the more interesting way to deal with a Rugrat that some people still don't know, and when it throws an item at you, you can actually grab the item mid-air and stop it from hitting you. Now, it's kind of hard to do this with no strength, but if you have a little bit of strength, it becomes way easier. And if you get the timing down, you can do it almost every time. And you also get to save the item it's throwing as well. But this can be kind of hard to pull off, especially if you are dealing with other monsters on the map at the same time. Otherwise, I would just highly recommend getting a shop weapon and killing him. Otherwise, he's going to absolutely terrorize your run. And yeah, that's it for the Rugrat. Next, we have the BOWTIE. It has 200 health. It does 5 damage per hit and requires 7 strength to grab it. BOWTIE is kind of one of those monsters that doesn't really have a lot of counters. If it sees you, it will start an animation blowing in your direction, dealing 5 damage per hit. And this can be extremely dangerous. If you get blown into a wall or get stuck on something as it's blowing, it will continue to damage you for that entire time, dealing tons of damage. There's also quite a high chance it attacks again if it can still see you, and it will keep you stunned for quite a while. And this entire time it will be dealing damage, so you'll most likely die if you're still on the early levels. After finishing this animation, it also has a sprint attack where it will literally run through its life and trample through everything on the map that's in its way. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Now, you can actually kill the BOWTIE by stunning it with a medium object from levels 1 to 4, but it is quite risky, meaning again, any shop weapons are going to be your best bet to kill it. And other than that, there's no other ways to counter the BOWTIE other than like hiding from it. So yeah, that's it. On to the next one. Moving on to GAMBIT. He has 150 health. His damage is 50 if you hit red, and it takes you to 1 HP if you hit black, and it requires 9 strength to grab. The GAMBIT overall is an extremely cool monster. Not only is he cheeked up, he is also a spinning gambling wheel. If he sees you, he will sprint really fast towards you and grab you, spinning a wheel which has 5 different colors. Red, which will take 50 HP away from you. Green, which will give you 25 HP. Yellow, which will drop a money bag. White, which will fully heal you. And black, which will put you down to 1 HP no matter how much health you have. Now, honestly, GAMBIT as a monster on its own isn't really that dangerous, but the reason it can be really bad is if you have other monsters chasing you and GAMBIT does get a hold of you, this will give them a free hit on you. Kind of similar to the hidden. Now, the GAMBIT can be worth killing if you have a weapon from the shop. You can easily kill it, but he's also extremely easy to dodge. All you have to do is slide under a table or chair, and he probably won't be able to get to you. But yeah, that's it for the GAMBIT. Moving on to the head grab, has 150 health, it does 5 to 10 damage per hit and requires 4 strength to grab. The head grabber overall is quite a basic monster in R.E.P.O, in which it has 2 different attacks. One being a swipe attack, where it will get up in your face and swipe its arms at you, and the other one being a slide tackle, where he'll basically 2-foot you like Prime Sergio Ramos, which can actually knock you over and cause you to take environmental damage. Now, the head grab is actually quite a fast enemy, and it does enjoy getting up in your face and being really annoying, which makes it quite hard to hit with valuables. But his attacks overall are quite easy to dodge. If you just run and jump backwards, you can normally dodge most of them. However, this is not the main feature of the head grab, as it is actually shown a lot more when playing with friends, as when one of your friends dies and the head drops, the head grab can actually start wearing your friend's head. And funnily enough, they can actually talk to you while it's wearing them. Now, along with most other monsters, there's not really a best way to deal with a head grab. I would just recommend getting a shot weapon and killing him. Otherwise, he can be slightly annoying, but he's not anything special. And yeah, that's it for the head grab. Next, we have the Heart Hugger, which has 300 health. It does 30 damage per hit and requires 9 strength to move. The Heart Hugger is basically a fly trap type monster that will appear next to you from the ground, shooting out pink gas. And if you get hit by this pink gas, it will pick you up and pull you in, where it will disguise itself as a heart and then start biting you for 30 health a hit. And if you survive this attack, it will go back into the ground and spawn somewhere else. Now, in terms of ways to avoid this monster, there's not really much you can do if you've already been grabbed by the gas, unless you have a friend that can come and pull you out of it, or unless you have a shop weapon such as a sword or a pistol, and you can actually pull that out while you're grabbed and kill it. Now, you can bait out the Heart Hugger's attack if you get a little bit close to it, force it to attack, and then hide behind a wall quick enough. This will cause it to continue its attack and then eventually despawn. Now, you are able to save your friends out of the pink gas, and they are able to save you. You just have to be extremely careful not to get stuck in the gas, which is kind of hard to do, but it is possible. But again, like most other monsters in this game, and I keep saying it, most shop weapons are your best bet for the Heart Hugger. Using valuables isn't really an option because of how it attacks. So yeah, that's it for the Heart Hugger. Moving on to the OOGLY. It has 200 health, it does 4 damage per hit, and requires 9 strength to grab. The OOGLY is a very interesting monster, but he's actually pretty cool as he will fly around the room scanning the floor, and you'll be able to tell where he's looking by the big green circle on the floor. Now, if you do stay in the green circle for too long, OOGLY will detect you and start attacking you, which can actually be extremely dangerous, especially if it's in a room with some pits, as chances are he will just chuck you straight down them, because there's no real way to control your character once he starts attacking. Now, another tip with the green circle on the floor is you can actually jump through it really quick or tumble through it. He will only detect you if you stand in it for like 2 seconds. Now, the other way to deal with OOGLY is if you have 9 strength, you can actually grab him mid-attack and stun him, even though it is pretty hard to do because he moves so quick. Otherwise, the real best way is to hit it with a melee weapon, because you can actually pull weapons out while he's attacking. So if you just swing your mouse left and right, you might be able to kill him, you might not. I don't know. Otherwise, it's easy enough to avoid him. Just look out for him, and he moves rooms pretty frequently, so just wait for him to move and you should be good. But yeah, that's about it for the OOGLY. Next up, we have the Huntsman, the first of the tier 3s on this list. He has 250 health, does 100 damage per hit, and requires 9 strength to grab. The Huntsman is the first and only monster on this list that relies fully on sound, and he will literally shoot at any sound he hears. This includes things like tumbling, walking, talking, pretty much everything that makes any sort of sound in the game. You will actually be able to hear the Huntsman coming towards you, as he does actually hum around the map and make his own little noise. So make sure to listen out for that, and you'll know you have a Huntsman on the map, and you'll know to be quiet. Some ways to deal with the Huntsman is you can actually stun him from levels 1 to 4 with a medium object. Just be careful, because sometimes it doesn't always work, and he can actually turn around and hit you and one-shot you, especially on earlier levels. You can also lead the Huntsman up a staircase by making noise. So you can tap an item or talk, and he'll walk up to that noise up the staircase, and when he goes back down, he will fall down, taking a little bit of damage. Now, this does take a while to kill him, but it does work. Now, a cool trick with the Huntsman as well, if you just want to get past him, if you're behind a door, you can actually slam the door shut, and he should turn around and shoot the door, meaning you can run past him while he's on cooldown with his shot. Otherwise, just being silent and crouching around is the best way to avoid the Huntsman. Next, we have the Clown. It has 250 health, it does 50 to 100 damage, and requires 13 strength to grab. Now, the Clown or Laser Beam, in my opinion, is by far one of the easiest tier 3s to fight in the game, once you master his attack pattern. Now, his first attack is the Laser Beam attack, in which the Clown will laugh and then shoot a laser beam from the red ball on his head, dealing 100 damage if it hits you. Now, the best way to think about this attack is the Clown will always aim at your head. So if you're stood up, you should be able to easily crouch underneath the laser, and if you're crouched, he will shoot down, and then you should be able to jump over it. As long as you're thinking about it as he always aims at your head, you should be perfectly fine dodging this attack. Now, his other attack is his kick, where if the Clown gets too close to you, he will try and kick you, dealing 50 damage. But you can actually time a jump and avoid the kick entirely. Once you have mastered dealing with both of these attacks, the Clown, especially early on, you don't even need a weapon to fight, as you can get all the valuables from the map and just keep hitting him while dodging his attack. And honestly, once you have mastered the attacks, the Clown is one of the most fun monsters to fight in Repo. And yeah, that's all there is to be said about the Clown. Next, we have the Trudge. It has 500 health, does 100 damage per hit, and requires 13 strength to move. Now, the Trudge is one of the slowest moving, heavy hitting monsters in Repo. If you get too close to the Trudge, it will slam its mace into the ground, performing a vacuum-like attack, tucking in literally everything. This does include valuables and other monsters. Now, the main thing to look out for with the Trudge, especially when it attacks, is being far enough away from this attack, as it does have a bit more range than you would typically expect, and it can pull you in from quite far out. Now, the best way to avoid this attack is to run as far away as possible and try and have something between you and the Trudge. This could be a wall, a table. As long as there's something between you and the Trudge, blocking it from pulling you in, that's good. Now, in terms of countering the Trudge, there's not really many ways to do it, especially because of its high health. Fighting it with valuables early on really isn't an option at all. So your best bet, honestly, is with a shot bought weapon, but even then it's kind of still not worth it. But you can easily enough just crouch around him and avoid him. But yeah, that's it for the Trudge. Moving on to the Reaper. He has 250 health, does 10 damage per hit, and requires 9 strength to grab. The Scarecrow, or Reaper as she's known, will roam around the map, and if she spots you, she will start sprinting at you, swinging her arms, dealing 10 damage per hit. But the reason it's so dangerous is because of how fast she hits, and how quick she actually sprints. Now, early on, she's going to be extremely hard to kill with valuables, as she likes to swipe the valuables out of your hand and catch up to you very quickly. She can be very scary. So using valuables pretty much isn't an option for her. Now, there is actually one really good way to avoid the Reaper that still not a lot of people know, and that's you can actually abuse her mechanics pretty easily. If the Reaper is chasing you and you slide underneath a chair, a desk, a bed, anything like that, anything you can slide under, if you sit under there for like a second and then move out the other side, she will do an animation where she starts trying to hit you underneath that object, and she will be stuck there for a good few seconds, giving you enough time to get away. Now, another thing to note with the Reaper is they did actually just do an update to where she can't knock shop items out of your hand, meaning you can use any melee weapons or ranged weapons from the shop and pretty easily kill her. But yeah, that's it for the Reaper. Next, we have the Headman. He has 250 health, does 50 damage per hit, and requires 13 strength to grab. The Headman early game, in my opinion, is one of the hardest tier 3s to deal with, as he has quite a long aggro range, along with being extremely fast, meaning he can be quite difficult to hide from and dodge, especially if you have low stamina. Another thing to mention with Headman is he is able to fly, so you can't even hide up high from him, because he will still be able to see you and get to you. In my opinion, one of the best ways to deal with Headman is trying to break line of sight. The best way to do this is by jump tumbling round corners and trying to hide as best you can and hope he loses you. And most of the time, he honestly will. If you can get around a corner and hide in a cupboard or under something, a lot of the time, he will just miss you. Also, similarly to the Scarecrow, you can actually bait him by sliding underneath a chair or table, which will force him to attack under the chair or table. But Headman tends to lose interest a little bit faster, so this is a lot harder to pull off. Now, like most other monsters in this game, from levels 1 to 4, you can actually stun him with a medium object. However, Headman does like to bite through a lot of valuables if you're not careful. So it is a little bit difficult, and again, any sort of shop weapon is going to be your best bet for Headman. Next, we have the Robe. She has 250 health, she does 100 damage while stood up or 50 while crouched, and requires 13 strength to move. Now, how the Robe works is she will silently roam around the map, and if she sees you, she will slowly begin to follow you. Now, the two main things to note about the Robe is if you don't look at her, you can actually get away from her just by walking. However, if you do look at her, she will freak out, speed up, and dash at you, and be able to catch you pretty easily. So the main thing you will want to do is avoid eye contact with the Robe at all times. Now, similarly to the Headman or Reaper, you can slide under something and bait out her attacks, allowing you to get away. Apart from that, crouching around and hiding is a pretty good option if you just don't want to fight her. Now, from levels 1 to 4, just like most other monsters, medium items are enough to stun her. However, again, shop weapons are your best bet if you just want to take her down. Next, we have the Cleanup Crew. It has 350 health, it does 60 to 85 damage, and requires 13 strength to move. This enemy, in my opinion, is one of the more scary, annoying tier 3s in the game. He has two different attacks. The first one being when he detects you, he will shoot his head at you. The head will then proceed to follow you around the map until it eventually explodes, dealing up to 85 damage on impact. They will also leave behind a cloud of acid, which will also do damage to you. One other thing to note with this attack as well, if the head directly hits you when he shoots it off, it will knock you over and stun you for a few seconds. The Cleanup Crew's other attack is a close range attack, whereas if you get too close to him, his arms will poke out, hitting everything around it and dealing 60 damage. Now, some of the ways to deal with the Cleanup Crew are if he shoots his head at you, you can't actually throw his head away, but you can move his head into a pit if there's one close by, or you can even move it behind a wall to stop the impact. And apart from that, the only other option are really shop weapons. Because of his other attacks, you can't really do well with valuables against him. Even though mediums will stun him, he's still pretty hard overall to kill. So yeah, a shop weapon is your best bet. Now, the last thing with the Cleanup Crew, if you do end up killing him, his head will still drop. So just be careful with that, because it will follow you and blow up and leave the toxic cloud. But yeah, that's it for that monster. Next, we have the Loom. She has 500 health, does 100 damage per hit, and requires 13 strength to grab. The Loom, in my opinion, is one of the more scary tier 3s. He is a slow monster, monster, and her main attack is to stick her hands out, and as she gets close to you, she will clap you, dealing 100 damage. One thing to note with the Loom is she can only spawn past level 2, and the main mechanic of the Loom is you will get the Loom hands on your screen. This will mean she is targeting you. This will also allow her to know where you are at all times on the map, meaning there is no hiding from her. Now, another thing with the Loom is if she claps you once, you'll most likely move on to another target or kind of run away unless you start grabbing her or you're way too close. So she will just leave if she misses enough claps. Now, some good tech for the Loom that still not a lot of people know is if you get extremely close to her and jump around in a triangle type pattern, you can actually just dodge her and force her to miss enough claps to the point where she'll just lose aggro and completely run away. Otherwise, because she knows where you are at all times, it's best to just use shot weapons on her. And I don't know if it's changed since recording this video, but the Loom also doesn't take damage from pits, and she also doesn't take full damage. So knocking her over or chucking her in a pit also isn't an option. Of course, that could have all changed by the time this comes out. But yeah, that's it for the Loom. Now, the final monster, the SEMIBOT. The SEMIBOT is a monster in Repo that only appears if you have friends. Now, it can come in multiple different colors, and it tends to love to mimic their voices, movements, and actions. Now, you want to be really careful not to provoke this creature, as it might tend to get a little bit angry. Now, my favorite way to deal with the SEMIBOT is to smack them with the cart and throw them into a pit. This usually does the trick. But if this fails, make sure to run and hide and hope they don't find you.